Hey there, Stitchers. This is Debbie Hodge from StitchStories.com, here today to talk to you about our School Days embroidery kit. This one's great for anybody who loved school, who was a teacher, a retired teacher, who is a teacher, for your homeschool classrooms. It's filled with motifs that have to do with school, most of them vintage motifs. If you take a look, there's a globe, an owl, the abacus and flashcards and an old schoolhouse, and even those old vintage Viewmaster slides right here. Remember those? Stack of books with that iconic apple on top of it. And it offers a whole bunch of fun stitching motifs. This one's designed much like our Create was. It's a collage of elements. Can I get this straight? Right? It's not a scene. There's so many pieces and they're all layered. And I did a video on Create and I talked about how I used color and line to bring order to such a busy design, which I also had to do with this one. And but I think these busy designs are fun because they can hit so many little pieces and really function like a sampler. They give you all kinds of little pieces to dip into and stitch and have fun with. The color scheme here has primary colors of red and blue and yellow, and then there's a couple of greens added in and chalkboard gray. I think the chalkboard gray is really perfect for giving it that vintage feel. So it's grounded with two big clusters. There's this cluster up here at the top of these elements that are layered together, and then there's the cluster down here. And the two of them sit diagonal from each other and anchor each other, and then within it, alongside that, we've got the pennants, the abacus, the cursive writing. So some tips for stitching this one. First of all, get it and stitch it. It's really, really fun to stitch. I guess one thing to look at is there's a lot of satin stitching on here. Some people are not fans of satin stitching, but these aren't huge blocks of satin stitching, and they're really fun. You've got much longer satin stitches with the continents here. I would start out with the pennants to get your, if you're not comfortable with satin stitching, do some pennants, because what I do with them is I use the angle of an individual flag to set the angle that all the stitches will go by, right? So I usually do one on the far side, one in the middle, and one on the other side. That sets my angle, and then I stitch in between those. So start with the pennants to get your comfort level with the satin stitching, and then move on to the continent. And with the continent, again, pick an angle and define that angle with several stitches a little bit apart, and then you just keep stitching with those. I like to stitch that continent first and then outline it with the split stitch. You're gonna have much better results if you do that. There's a fun grid on there for the ocean. I thought about how to represent it. It's a lot of fill to fill that all with satin stitch, so I use this grid stitch that a lot of you like. It's in a lot of our other patterns, and it's really back stitches on a diagonal, and what you do is do all the lines going in one diagonal first and then do the other diagonal, and just make the stitch length of your back stitches go to each intersection. A lot of fun. Read is outlined with the back stitch, and then these areas of the letters are filled in with satin stitch. Of course, you can do anything you want. Some people I've seen have filled the whole letters in with satin stitch instead of the openings, and those are probably my satin stitch fans. With the abacus, do the gray outlines that give the structure to the abacus first, and then do all the little satin stitch circles. They're a lot of fun. And with those, they're so small. I like to use 3 strands of floss. Purists would say stick with 2 strands and get a really clean, tidy look. I'm a little impatient for that. I like to work with 3 strands and fill things in a little faster. So I usually do 1 stitch down the middle, and then fill on the other side. Not too many stitches on either side. I don't actually remember now how many they were. With the cursive writing, put the lines in for that hand lettering paper first, and then do the stitches for the cursive. That's in the chalkboard gray. Use the split stitch. Split stitch is fabulous for curves that are really tight and that you want to get real precision with, and that's a lot of fun to stitch. The schoolhouse has all kinds of details in it. There's the lines of the boards in the building. They're backstitched in tan. These X's here, I actually used sideways fly stitches for those. Same thing, the shingles are also fly stitched, and they're nested one into the other. So you do a line of fly stitches for the top row of shingles, and then the next row would be fly stitches, but you go right in to the dip of the previous fly stitch. You'll see when you get the diagram how it works. Windows are satin stitch filled. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You could leave them open using the 2 colors of blue. And for the 4 and the 8 up here, to get that effect of some thinner lines and some thicker lines, use backstitch for the thin lines, and then what did I use? I used split stitch. 2 rows of split stitch wherever it's thicker. Like, see how some of the curves on the 8 are thicker. It's just a really fun design that you can get to stitch like a sampler, dip in and out, and then display it in your own home or gift it to somebody who loves teaching and school and vintage motifs. You can find this kit at the Stitch Stories shop if you go to stitchstories.com/school. All right, have a great day, and I hope you're stitching up something fun.